you, Chair. And thank you for appearing. The Northern Australia Aboriginal Justice Agency. Does someone need to come up for that?
Yes.
Or
Yep. Senator, we've got NIAA and Attorney General.
okay, I don't know who to address it.
This is Attorney General, so it's NIAA.
Okay, thank you. The Northern Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency, the Northern Territory's largest Aboriginal legal service, I'm told has been in turmoil in recent years. Since late 2022, there have been 6 CEOs appointed to the National Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency. That's just 2 years, 6. Its long-standing CEO, Ms Priscilla Atkins, was controversially sacked in February 2023, and she was found in June 2024 by the Federal Court to have been unfairly dismissed. The agency has suffered a chronic shortage of lawyers and other staff, leading to a suspension of the provision of legal services and almost 75 Aboriginal clients not being represented in court during the staff shortage. They're the figures I have. Minister, is Mr Hugh Woodbury, former CEO and domestic violence perpetrator, still a director of the board of the National Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency?
Senator Roberts, yes, he is, and we have been asked these questions earlier today, just to let you know.
Okay. How was this man able to be appointed the CEO with such a history, given the prevalence of domestic violence as an issue within the Aboriginal community? We've seen Senator Cox and Senator Nampijinpa Price both raising this issue.
Senator, it is for the membership of NAJA to appoint board members under their constitution. They are an ASIC organisation registered with the ACNC. The appointment of Mr Woodbury to chair of that board was made by the board without the knowledge or permission sought by the NIAA. Subsequent to that, Mr Woodbury has resigned as chairman of the board. He remains as a director of NAJA, as is allowed under the terms of the regulator for that organisation, being the ACNC, under the terms of the Commonwealth's funding agreement. Given that Mr Woodbury is not directly involved in the management or service delivery in his capacity as a non-executive director, consent from NAJA is not required from the Commonwealth for him to hold that position.
Minister, that seems pretty unusual, and for us to be giving money to that, ask the taxpayers of Australia to be giving money to such an entity. What is the state of Commonwealth funding to the agency? There's been a talk of refunds, stopping money, audit, misspent money.
Senator, since December last year, the NIAA has had in place a grant controller managing the funding provided by the Commonwealth or by the NIAA to NAJA. Under the scope of that arrangement, the grant controller reviews the expenditure from NAJA in relation to those funded programs. And then when they're satisfied that sufficient evidence has been provided, they release funds to NAJA. So it's tightly controlled. All of the standard performance management, performance reporting requirements that exist within our contracts continue. So again, they need to be meeting both the performance standards and requirements of the contract, as well as having the additional scrutiny provided by the grant controller, again to ensure that there's clear alignment between the expenditure and the funds that are being provided.
So where does I missed the early part of your answer? I was looking down here. Where does the grant controller, the grant manager, where does he or she fit in the scheme of things, in the hierarchy?
So the grant controller is an external firm that's been appointed to manage those funds. So they act on behalf of the NIAA, but they are an independent body, and they effectively sit in between the NIAA and NAJA, as I said before, to ensure that NAJA is applying the funds appropriately in line with the contract.
So we've got we've got the taxpayer giving money to the government, giving money to the NIAA, giving money to the grant controller, grant manager, who then authorises the money to go to NARJA.
To be released. Effectively, the grant controller acts as a trustee of sorts in terms of just holding and releasing the funds once the evidence has been provided.
So a lot of people in the chain. Is the funding of $80 million Commonwealth funding over 5 years ending in 2025 still the plan, or has this sum been reviewed?
I might take that question. The Attorney General's Department is responsible for legal assistance funding, and through the National Legal Assistance Partnership, which is in place from July 2020 till the end of June 2025, we provide funding through to the Northern Territory Government that then provides funding through to NARJA, as well as its Legal Aid Commission and other bodies. So that funding is in place until the end of the end of June next year.
And has the sum been reviewed? It's still in place, but what about the future?
Has the funding been reviewed?
Yes.
So there has been a broad review of the National Legal Assistance Partnership, which was handed down earlier this year. But in terms of the funding to the Northern Territory, so there are conditions within the National Legal Assistance Partnership that they meet those milestone events. We release the funding to the Northern Territory. They then separately have a contract with NARJA, for example, which have their own conditions in there.
Is the Commonwealth still seeking a reimbursement of some unspent funds, as I've been led to believe?
So we have. I don't know. Is that? Sorry. The Northern Territory, I think, has been in contact with NARJA and working that through in terms of their unspent funds.
Their what?
So the Northern Territory Government has been so the funding for legal assistance goes through the Northern Territory Government. So they have the relationship with NARJA about that funding, including any underspends that there might be.
So what's the amount being sought? Does anyone know?
Being sought by in underspend.
Unspent money back.
The Northern Territory Government is responsible for that under their grant agreement, and they're working that through with NARJA. I think they're in a negotiation about what that amount looks like.
So it's been given to the Northern Territory Government, another entity in the chain, and that's been given to NARJA, and NARJA and the Northern Territory Government are now haggling over the unspent money. Is that right?
They're working through the amount and what can be, if any, can be retrieved back by the Northern Territory Government.
Minister, what has been the outcome of audits of the agency?
I'll need to rotate the call, Senator
Sure.
Roberts.
I'll refer to Mr Worth.
Yes, Senator. The audit is currently being finalised, so at this stage there is no outcome. We're looking to have it finalised by the end of the year.
So is that, you can't tell me about the nature of the audit, the scope, the purpose, the deadlines?
The scope itself, yes. The auditor is reviewing expenditure for the 22-23 financial year. The application of funds received for the 22-23 financial year from both through the National Legal Services funding as provided by the Northern Territory Government, as well as NIAA funding.
So that was after Ms Priscilla Atkins was controversially sacked?
Correct.
Thank you.
Senator.
Yeah. Back to I'll use your term, NARJA, the North Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency. I don't know how you get your head around all these acronyms. Specifically, what is the nature of the current governance of the agency?
Senator, you're seeking that the current status of NAJA's governance?
Governance, yeah.
We're in regular contact with NAJA. We have received advice from them that they are looking to hold an annual general meeting later this month, on the 27th of November, in order to elect new board members.
But they are registered with ASIC and ACNC is their regulation body.
Who are the voters?
The members,
The members.
of NAJA.
Yeah.
Is service delivery meeting the needs of the community? Because I understand that that's suspended at the moment. And is legal representation in court meeting the needs of accused people and in accord with the contract with the Commonwealth Attorney General?
Senator, throughout the time that we've been working with NAJA, coming out of the kind of issues that they've been having for nearly 2 years, service delivery has been a really key focus of ours, and so we've tracked it really carefully. We understand NAJA is now back at full service delivery, and so, for example, I think I mentioned earlier in October this year, we were advised by NAJA, for example, that there's no Aboriginal people going unrepresented in criminal proceedings in the Northern Territory, except by choice. So that is, I think, a very strong indication of the service delivery having resumed.
So there was a suspension of the services and they've been resumed?
Yeah, so toward, I think it was November last year, there was a temporary suspension of some services, and they have rebuilt kind of through the end of last year and over the start of this year, and I think it was maybe April.
1st of April.
1st of April this year they recommenced full service delivery.
So how long were they suspended? 6 months? 12 months?
November to April, so about 6 months.
6 months, right. Minister, community members in Queensland tell me that taxpayer funds are not reaching the communities. That's in Torres Strait, that's in Cape York, it's in southern Queensland. Why does the government oppose full audits of Aboriginal agencies? And in essence, why does the government keep feeding the white and black Aboriginal industry of activists, consultants, academics, lawyers, bureaucrats, politicians, and effectively others who are effectively barons, while ignoring the plight of Aboriginal people and communities who are not getting what they're entitled to, not getting the support they deserve and need?
Sure. Thank you, Senator Roberts. If I could just ask for a breakdown of particular agencies that they think or departments that they're not receiving, because there are health departments going out, there are educational departments
They're
going
saying
out.
in general.
So
the money's being hived
That's all.
off to the barons in the Aboriginal, white and black Aboriginal industry.
All right. If you'd like to give us examples that you have specifically, Senator Roberts, but I do know that taxpayer funds goes right out across Queensland, federal government funds as well as state funds.
So why won't you do audits?
There are audits. The ANAO does its audits with respective organisations, certainly with land councils that you're referring to in terms of questions around audits for land councils. That actually does occur.
My understanding, Minister, is that the ANAO does not do audits. It does scoping assessments, not comprehensive audits. They identify areas of weakness, but they do not do comprehensive audits.
That is not correct, Senator Roberts, but perhaps I need to refer to those who work in the area. Mr Worth?
Senator, the ANAO undertakes two kinds of audits on Commonwealth entities. The first one being financial statement audits, which I guess might be pointing towards the ones you're talking about how funds are received and applied through the departments or agencies, I should call them. The second one are the performance ones, which are the ones that look at how effective operations, governance arrangements, things like that are, and hence make recommendations on their findings on those. So there are the two different types of audit.
Can I have a list on notice, please, of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander agencies that have been audited in the last 5 years?
Absolutely.
The
Yes, Senator.
agency, the scope of the audit and the date.
Yep,
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Senator
Thank you.